Appearance attributes apply visual changes to artwork without actually physically changing the shape of the paths or the artwork that you had selected as you applied them. And they apply to strokes, fills when we're applying effects or transparency settings in Illustrator 2 objects. And they can also be applied at layer level, group level, path level, and so on. And that's why I've opened the layers panel, and I'll also open now the appearance panel. I actually pull it out so that we can see some of the settings right here. I've got this circle on the right hand side selected, and we can see that there is stroke settings applied here, there is a fill setting applied, and so on. If I select the elliptical shape, we can see some additional settings applied to that. So how do we work with this panel? Well, first of all, I'll select this object on the left hand side, and let's see how we created this spiral graph. So as soon as you select an object, you'll see that you can not only apply stroke and fill colors from the swatches color panel and the control panel, but you can also do that from the appearance panel. So let's change the color of that, and I'll just, for the sake of the exercise, make that stroke a little bit thicker at the same time. I can now apply an effect by going through the effect menu and, for instance, apply a transformation. But I can also do that by selecting an effect from the FX menu at the bottom of the appearance panel here. So if I look for that same transform here, and let's apply a rotation, I can enter some settings in here. So let's say, let's make it 15-degree rotation, and we'll do a couple of copies at the same time. This goes back to when we were looking at the transform tools and features in an earlier video. I'll just push that up to 10 and maybe even one more, and we've got 11 here. Once I click OK, that particular transformation has been applied to this stroke. If I want to edit that again, all I need to do here in the appearance panel is click that, and I can now make changes to that. For instance, increase the angle to 30 degrees so that we don't get as many copies going around. When we take a look in the layers panel, we can now see that this target icon that we briefly looked at in the previous video is indicating that the object in the layer that we see here contains an appearance, and we can select that object again by clicking that little target. I can also move that appearance by dragging it up or down and apply it to some of the other objects in this particular layer. If I press the Option or Alt key on the keyboard, I can make a copy of that appearance and apply that to other objects at the same time. I'll just undo that and reset the appearance on this particular object back to its basic appearance. And I'll do that by going to the panel menu in the appearance panel and reducing this object back to its basic appearance. We can also apply appearances at layer level. If I target this layer and, for instance, apply a different opacity using the transparency panel, then every object in that layer will have that particular opacity level. If I add a new object to that layer, it will automatically adopt that particular opacity level as well. Let's now have a look at the logo on the right hand side. First of all, how do we create that border-like appearance? Well, I've started out by selecting the path, and the very first thing we'll do is we'll change the color of that stroke to yellow, and we'll increase the stroke weight to, let's say, 6. Okay, there we go. We can actually add multiple strokes and or multiple fills to a path. If I click on the Add New Stroke button, a brand new stroke is added to this path. I can change the color of that. Let's make it a light green. And I can change the stroke weight of that, and we'll make that a little bit thicker. Unfortunately, this stroke sits on top of the other stroke, thereby I can no longer see the 6-point stroke. But we can change the stacking order of these objects, just like we can change the stacking order of objects and layers in the Layers panel by dragging things up and down within the panel. And I can now see that stroke. Now I'd like to change the stroke alignment to go from the inside out. So clicking on the stroke link here to access the stroke panel and changing the alignment to align the stroke to the outside. I'll do the same for the other stroke that I created, and we'll now add an additional stroke by going to the panel menu, choosing Add New Stroke, and in this case we'll change the color to a darker green, and we'll increase the point size to about 18. Last thing that I want to do is on the bottommost stroke apply another effect. And in this case we're going to apply a drop shadow effect. We'll leave the opacity on 75% just for visual appearances, and we'll just set the Y offset to 0.05. Actually we'll set them all to 0.05. Select the preview so we can actually see what happens in the background. Click OK, and we can now see when we expand the stroke appearance, this bottom stroke appearance, that drop shadow is only applied to this particular stroke, and I can hide the visibility of that if I want to. Last but not least, we can take the appearance that we've applied to this path and turn that into a graphic style. Now let me just push these out a little bit, and so that we can see both the Layers panel still and the Appearance panel. And all I do here is just drag this preview into the Graphic Styles menu panel and double click it to give it a name. And click OK. And if I now select additional circles or any shape, I can apply that same appearance again. So you have a short introduction to what we can do with appearances. It's an incredibly powerful feature within Illustrator. Go and have a play and discover the amazing things that you can do with this.